At my wife's funeral, I got a message. I am still alive, trust no one. This is what happens next. The rain hammered against the black umbrella above my head, each drop feeling like another nail in the coffin of my shattered life. Sarah's casket gleamed under the gray October sky, surrounded by a sea of flowers that would never bring back her laugh, her touch, her voice calling my name when I walked through the door. She was taken too soon. Father Mackenzie's voice drifted over the crowd, but his words felt hollow, meaningless. Too soon? Sarah was 34. We had plans, trips we'd never take, children we'd never have, anniversaries we'd never celebrate. The drunk driver who plowed into her car had stolen everything from us in a single moment of stupidity. I stood there, numb, watching faces I'd known for years. My brother Mike squeezed my shoulder, tears streaming down his cheeks. Sarah's mother, Helen, sobbed into her handkerchief, her whole body shaking with grief. My colleagues from the accounting firm stood in respectful silence, their faces etched with sympathy. "David, I'm so sorry for your loss," whispered Janet from HR, her eyes red-rimmed. "If you need anything at all." I nodded, unable to form words. The prescribed responses felt impossible. How do you thank someone for their sympathy when your world has collapsed? How do you accept condolences when the woman who made your life worth living is lying in a box 6 feet under? The service dragged on. More prayers, more empty words about Sarah being in a better place. I wanted to scream that the better place was here, with me, in our little house on Maple Street, making coffee together on Sunday mornings and arguing about what to watch on Netflix. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I ignored it. Whoever it was could wait. Nothing mattered anymore except saying goodbye to Sarah. The buzzing stopped, then started again almost immediately. Then again. "David?" Mike leaned closer, his voice concerned. "You okay?" I wasn't okay. I'd never be okay again. But I nodded anyway, the lie coming automatically. The phone kept buzzing, insistent, demanding attention I didn't want to give. Finally, irritated by the distraction, I pulled it out to silence it. The screen showed 3 missed calls from an unknown number, and a text message notification. My finger hovered over the screen, ready to delete whatever spam or wrong number had chosen this moment to intrude on my grief. But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the timing, or maybe it was the way my hands were shaking, but I opened the message instead. The words hit me like a physical blow. "I am still alive. Trust no one inch." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the wet grass. Mike bent to pick it up, but I snatched it back before he could see the screen. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. "David? What's wrong?" Mike's face was creased with worry. "You look like you've seen a ghost." A ghost. If only it were that simple. I stared at the message again, reading the words over and over. The number was blocked, but the message was clear. Impossible, but clear. Sarah had been dead for 3 days. I'd identified her body at the morgue, seen the damage the crash had done, held her cold hand one last time. She was gone. But someone was playing the cruelest joke imaginable. No. There was no, or Sarah was dead. I'd watched them lower her casket into the ground not 10 minutes ago. This was someone's sick idea of a prank, someone who thought it would be funny to torture a grieving widower. But who would do something so evil? And how did they get my number? I looked around the crowd of mourners with new eyes. Helen was still sobbing. Mike looked concerned but normal. Janet from HR was chatting quietly with Tom from accounting. Everyone looked exactly as they should at a funeral, sad, respectful, appropriately dressed in black. Trust no one. The words echoed in my mind. What if this wasn't a prank? What if Sarah had somehow sent this message before she died? But that was impossible too. She died instantly, the paramedic said. No time for last words, let alone cryptic text messages. My phone buzzed again. Another message. The accident wasn't an accident. They think I'm dead. Keep it that way. This time I nearly dropped the phone for real. My vision blurred, and I had to grip Mike's arm to keep from falling. The cemetery spun around me like a merry-go-round, faces blurring together into a meaningless parade of potential enemies. "David!" Mike's voice seemed to come from far away. "Breathe, man. Just breathe." I forced air into my lungs, trying to think clearly. Someone was messing with me. It had to be that. Sarah was dead. I'd seen her body, attended her funeral, watched her casket disappear into the earth. Dead people don't send text messages. But the messages knew things. They knew about the accident, knew that I was at the funeral. Whoever was sending them was watching me right now. I scanned the crowd again, this time looking for someone who seemed out of place, someone who might be observing rather than mourning. But everyone looked normal, looked like they belonged. The co-workers from Sarah's tech company, clustered together near the back. Our neighbors from Maple Street, the Johnsons and the Patels, looking uncomfortable in their funeral clothes. Sarah's college roommate, flying in from Seattle to pay her respects. Any of them could be watching me. All of them could be lying. "I need to go," I whispered to Mike. "Go? David, the reception is at Helen's house. People are expecting. I can't." I shoved the phone deep into my pocket, but I could feel it there like a burning coal against my leg. "Tell them I'm not feeling well. Tell them anything." Mike grabbed my arm. "This isn't like you, David. You always do the right thing, always follow through. Sarah wouldn't want. Don't." The word came out sharper than I intended. "Don't tell me what Sarah would want. Sarah is dead." But even as I said the words, doubt crept in. Was she? The messages seemed to suggest otherwise, but that was impossible. Wasn't it? I stumbled away from the graveside, leaving Mike calling after me. The crowd parted as I pushed through, their sympathetic murmurs following me like a chorus of lies. Every face I passed could be hiding secrets. Every expression of sympathy could be a mask. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the phone in my lap, afraid to look at it again but unable to put it away. One more message had arrived while I was walking. "Go home. Look in the blue jewelry box on my dresser. Behind the mirror. And David. I love you. I always have." The last line broke me. Only Sarah called me by my full name when she was being serious, loving, real. Only Sarah knew about the little things that mattered, like how she always hid special notes and small gifts in unexpected places around our house. The blue jewelry box. I'd given it to her for our second anniversary. She kept her grandmother's ring in it, along with a few other pieces I'd bought her over the years. But I'd never looked behind the mirror. As I drove home through the rain, one thought kept circling through my mind: either someone was playing the most elaborate and cruel hoax in history, or my wife wasn't as dead as everyone believed. And if Sarah was alive, if she was hiding, sending me these messages, then everything I thought I knew about her death, about her life, about the woman I'd loved for 8 years, was a lie. The question was, which possibility terrified me more? Our house felt like a tomb when I walked through the front door. Sarah's coffee mug still sat on the kitchen counter, lipstick stains on the rim that I couldn't bring myself to wash away. Her reading glasses lay folded on the end table next to her favorite mystery novel, a bookmark still marking her place on page 247, a page she would never finish. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, staring at the blue jewelry box on Sarah's dresser. It looked so innocent, so normal, sitting there among her perfume bottles and makeup brushes. Just a simple wooden box covered in blue velvet, no bigger than a paperback book. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The weight felt different somehow, heavier than I remembered. I opened the lid, and the tiny music box melody began to play. For Elise. The same tune that had been Sarah's favorite since college. Her grandmother's diamond ring sparkled inside, along with the pearl earrings I'd bought her last Christmas. But where was the mirror the message had mentioned? I turned the box over, examining every inch. That's when I noticed it, a small panel on the bottom that didn't quite match the rest of the wood grain. My fingers found a tiny catch, almost invisible unless you knew to look for it. The false bottom clicked open. Inside was a world I never knew existed. A micro SD card taped to a folded piece of paper. A small brass key. And a photograph that made my blood run cold. Sarah, standing outside what looked like a warehouse, talking to a man I didn't recognize. But it wasn't the stranger that shocked me. It was Sarah herself. She was dressed in all black, her hair pulled back severely, wearing sunglasses at night. This wasn't my Sarah, the woman who wore bright colors and laughed too loud at my terrible jokes. This was someone else entirely, someone dangerous, purposeful, alert. With shaking fingers, I unfolded the paper. Sarah's handwriting, but the words were like nothing she'd ever written before. David, if you're reading this, then they succeeded in making it look like an accident. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth. Syntec Industries isn't what it appears to be. I've been documenting their illegal activities for 8 months. Money laundering, fraud, connections to offshore accounts that fund things that would make your skin crawl. The SD card contains copies of everything I've found. The key opens a safety deposit box at First National, box 347. I love you more than life itself, but I had to protect you from this. They would have killed us both. Syntec Industries. Sarah's employer for the past 2 years. The company where she worked as a corporate data analyst, analyzing market trends and preparing reports. At least, that's what I thought she did. I plugged the SD card into my laptop with trembling fingers. Folders appeared on the screen, dozens of them, each labeled with dates going back 8 months. I clicked on the most recent one. Spreadsheets filled with financial data that meant nothing to me, but the file names told a story that chilled me to the bone. Cayman_transfers_September, Ghosts_employees_payroll, Senator_Mitchell_payments, Arms_deal_Venezuela. Arms deals? Senator payments? What kind of corporate analyst stumbled across information like this? I opened another folder labeled Meeting_logs. Sarah's meticulous notes documented encounters with people I'd never heard her mention, late-night meetings in parking garages, conversations in hotel lobbies, exchanges of documents in coffee shops across town. September 15th, met with Phoenix at Riverside Diner. Confirmed Syntec funneling weapons profits through shell company in Delaware. Phoenix nervous, says they're getting suspicious. Advised to lay low. October 2nd, intercepted communication between Morrison and unknown party. Shipment delayed due to federal interest. Morrison mentioned cleaning house and loose ends, must accelerate timeline. October 8th, urgent. Phoenix found dead in apparent suicide. They know. Must extract evidence and disappear. David cannot know. They will use him to get to me. October 8th. That was 4 days before Sarah's accident. 4 days before the drunk driver ran her off the road on Highway 9. Except now I was beginning to understand there had been no drunk driver at all. My phone buzzed. Another message. You found it. Good. Now you know why I had to disappear. They staged my death to stop the investigation, but I escaped. The key opens everything you need to finish what I started. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. Where are you? I typed back. The response came immediately. Close. But they're watching you now. The funeral was perfect cover. They think you know nothing. Keep it that way. Your grief is your protection. My grief. They wanted me to keep grieving, keep playing the part of the devastated widower. But how could I pretend my wife was dead when she was apparently very much alive and messaging me from wherever she was hiding? Another message. Check the morning news tomorrow. Morrison's suicide will be front page. They're eliminating anyone who knew too much. Morrison. I recognized that name from Sarah's files. James Morrison, Senior Vice President at Syntec Industries. The man Sarah had been investigating. I grabbed the remote and turned on the late news. Nothing yet, but if Sarah was right, Morrison would be dead by morning. The brass key felt warm in my palm. Box 347 at First National. Whatever Sarah had hidden there was apparently important enough to fake her own death. Important enough to break my heart and let me believe she was gone forever. But it also meant that for the past 3 days, while I'd been drowning in grief, planning her funeral, accepting condolences from friends and family, Sarah had been alive somewhere. Hiding, watching, letting me suffer. The anger hit me like a physical blow. How could she do this to me? How could she let me identify a body at the morgue? Whose body had that been? How could she let me stand at her graveside and watch them lower an empty casket into the ground? My phone buzzed one more time. I know you're angry. I know this hurts. But David, they killed Phoenix just for asking questions. They would have killed you too if they thought you knew anything. This was the only way to keep you safe. Safe. While I was drowning in grief and guilt, thinking I should have done something different, should have driven her to work that day, should have insisted she take a different route home. While I was falling apart, she was safe somewhere, watching me destroy myself with sorrow. But she was alive. That was all that mattered. Sarah was alive, and apparently she needed my help to expose whatever corruption she'd uncovered at Syntec Industries. Tomorrow, I would go to the bank. Tonight, I would continue playing the grieving widower. But inside, everything had changed. The morning news confirmed Sarah's prediction with chilling accuracy. James Morrison, senior vice president of Syntec Industries, had been found dead in his downtown office at 6:47 a.m. The reporter's voice was professionally somber, as she described the apparent suicide. The note left behind citing overwhelming work stress and personal demons. I sat in my kitchen, still in yesterday's funeral clothes, staring at the television screen. The coffee in my mug had gone cold hours ago, but I couldn't bring myself to move. Morrison's corporate headshot filled the screen, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a genuine smile. He looked like someone's father, someone's husband. Not like a man involved in arms deals and money laundering. Not like a man who would kill himself. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. Suicide note was typed, not handwritten. Morrison was left-handed, but the gun was in his right hand. Sloppy work, they're getting desperate. I typed back quickly. How do you know all this? I have friends in places you can't imagine. People who believe in justice more than paychecks. We need to move fast now. They'll be watching you closer after Morrison. As if summoned by her words, my doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see Tom Bradley from Sarah's department at Syntec, holding what looked like a casserole dish. Tom had been at the funeral yesterday, had shaken my hand and offered his condolences with tears in his eyes. But now, knowing what I knew, his presence felt different. Calculated. David! Tom's voice boomed through the house as I opened the door. Brought you some of Margaret's famous tuna casserole. Figured you might not be up for cooking. He pushed past me into the living room, his eyes scanning everything, the coffee table, the bookcases, the family photos on the mantel. That's very thoughtful. I managed, accepting the dish. Please thank Margaret for me. Tom settled into Sarah's favorite chair without being invited, and something about the casual way he did it set my teeth on edge. How are you holding up, buddy? Yesterday was rough for all of us. I sat across from him, trying to look appropriately broken. It wasn't hard, I was broken, just not in the way he expected. Some days are better than others. Of course. Tom's eyes kept wandering, taking inventory. You know, Sarah mentioned she had some work files at home. Company property, nothing important, but with everything that's happened with Morrison. He trailed off meaningfully. My blood turned to ice. Work files? Yeah, just some data analysis reports, market projections. Boring stuff, really. But with the SEC breathing down everyone's necks after Morrison's situation. Well, we need to make sure all company materials are accounted for. The phone in my pocket buzzed. I ignored it. I don't know anything about work files, I said carefully. Sarah kept her work life separate from home. Tom's smile never wavered, but something shifted behind his eyes. Of course. It's just that her computer access logs show she was downloading quite a bit of data in the weeks before. Before the accident. Probably nothing, but you understand how paranoid corporate can get. Another buzz. Then another. I should probably take a look around. Tom continued, standing up. Just to put everyone's mind at ease. Won't take but a minute. Actually, Tom, I'm not really up for visitors right now. I stood too, blocking his path toward the stairs. Maybe another time? For just a moment, Tom's friendly mask slipped. His eyes hardened, and I caught a glimpse of something cold and calculating underneath. Then the smile snapped back into place. Sure. I understand completely. Grief makes everything harder. He headed toward the door, then paused. You know, David, if you find any of Sarah's work materials while you're going through her things, it would really help the company if you could give me a call. We're all just trying to honor her memory by tying up loose ends. The moment the door closed behind him, I pulled out my phone. 3 messages waited. Don't let him upstairs. Tom Bradley, 15-year Syntec employee, promoted to senior analyst 6 months ago after asking no questions about irregular data transfers. He's not your friend. Never was. They sent him to search the house. My hand shook as I typed back. He knew about the files. How did he know? They've been monitoring everyone who had access to the Morrison investigation. Tom volunteered to get close to you after I died. Offered to be the concerned colleague who would check on the grieving widower. The betrayal hit harder than I expected. Tom had been at our barbecues, had brought Sarah birthday presents, had seemed genuinely devastated at her funeral. But it had all been an act, a performance designed to get him close enough to search our house. What do I do now? I typed. Pack light. The safety deposit box, then we leave town. They'll be back tonight with a warrant, or worse. Where are you? Closer than you think. Farther than they know. Pack only what you need and meet me at the place where we had our first date. Midnight. Our first date. The old pier at Crystal Lake, 40 minutes outside town. We'd gone there to watch the sunset and ended up talking until dawn, sharing dreams and fears and falling in love under a canopy of stars. Sarah, I need to know, whose body did I identify at the morgue? The pause was longer this time. When the response came, it was shorter. A Jane Doe from the city morgue. Same height, same hair color. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry for everything. Another message followed immediately. But David, I need you to understand, they have people everywhere. Police, coroner's office, city hall. The only reason you're alive is because they think you know nothing. Keep it that way. I looked around our house, our sanctuary, our home, the place where we built our life together. In 12 hours, I'd have to leave it all behind. The photos on the mantel, the books we'd collected, the little everyday things that made this place ours. But Sarah was alive. After 3 days of drowning in grief, after saying goodbye at her graveside, after accepting that I'd spend the rest of my life missing her, she was alive. My phone buzzed one final time. I know this is hard. I know I'm asking you to trust me after lying to you for months. But David, what we expose could save thousands of lives. Morrison was just the beginning. Are you with me? I looked at Tom's casserole sitting on my counter, a prop in his performance of friendship. I thought about the tears he'd shed at Sarah's funeral, the way he'd hugged me and promised to be there if I needed anything. All lies. All of it. But Sarah's love for me, that had been real. Even as she'd built this elaborate deception, even as she'd faked her own death and let me grieve, her love had been the one true thing in a world suddenly full of shadows and deceit. I typed back. Always. I love you too. The response was immediate. See you at midnight. And David? Trust no one else. First National Bank felt like a mausoleum at 10 in the morning. My footsteps echoed off the marble floors as I approached the safety deposit box area, Sarah's brass key burning in my pocket like a guilty secret. The elderly bank manager, Mr. Patterson, led me down a corridor lined with numbered boxes, his keys jangling with each step. Box 347, he announced, inserting his master key alongside Sarah's. I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Chin. Your wife was a lovely woman. I nodded, not trusting my voice. If only he knew she wasn't as dead as everyone believed. The box was heavier than expected. Inside, I found 3 thick manila envelopes, each labeled with a single word. Evidence, insurance. And David, my hands trembled as I opened the last one. Sarah's handwriting filled pages of yellow legal pad paper, a letter meant for me alone. My darling David, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened and I've had to disappear completely. The evidence in these envelopes will destroy Syntech Industries and potentially bring down a network of corruption that reaches into the highest levels of government. But it will also make you the most wanted man in America, by both the good guys and the very bad guys. I've transferred our savings to an account in Switzerland. Account details are in the insurance envelope, along with new identities for both of us. We can disappear completely, start over somewhere they'll never find us. But first, we have to survive the next 24 hours. Be careful who you trust. Tom Bradley has been reporting on us for 6 months. But David, there's someone else, someone closer to you than you could imagine. Someone who's been watching, waiting, gaining your trust while planning your destruction. I wish I could tell you who, but they might intercept this message. Just remember, sometimes the people who seem to care the most are the ones who will hurt you the worst. All my love, Sarah. I stuffed the envelopes into my jacket and left the bank, paranoia crawling up my spine like ice-cold fingers. The parking lot seemed too quiet, the few other customers too interested in their phones. Was that man in the blue sedan actually making a call, or was he photographing me? My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Did you get everything? Sarah's message asked. Yes. But Sarah, your letter mentioned someone close to me. Who? Can't say over phone. Too dangerous. Meet me at the pier early, 11:30 instead of midnight. Something's changed. I was about to respond when another car pulled up beside mine. My brother Mike stepped out, his face creased with concern. David! Thank God I found you. He hurried over, looking genuinely distressed. I've been trying to call you all morning. Where have you been? Just running errands. I clutched the envelopes inside my jacket, trying to look normal. Listen, something weird is happening. This guy came by Mom's house this morning, asking questions about you. Said he was from Sarah's life insurance company, but something felt off. Mike stepped closer, lowering his voice. He knew things, David. Personal things about you and Sarah. Where you went on your honeymoon, what kind of car she drove, even that silly nickname she had for you. Pumpkin. Sarah used to call me Pumpkin when she was being playful, usually when she wanted me to do the dishes or take out the trash. It was embarrassing and endearing at the same time, and we never told anyone else about it. What kind of questions? I asked, though I was already dreading the answer. He wanted to know if you'd found any of Sarah's personal effects. Documents, files, anything work-related. Mike's eyes were worried. David, I think someone's been watching you. Maybe watching all of us. My phone buzzed again. Your brother is in danger too. They'll use him to get to you. Bring him with you tonight. I stared at the message, then at Mike. My older brother, who taught me to ride a bike and helped me through my first heartbreak. Who'd held me while I sobbed at Sarah's funeral and promised to help me get through the worst time of my life. Mike, I said carefully, how did you know to find me here? His expression flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. I tried your house first. When you weren't there, I figured you might be running errands downtown. But how did you know which bank? Another flicker, longer this time. Mike had always been a terrible liar, even as kids. Lucky guess? Mike, First National isn't even our bank. We use Wells Fargo on 5th Street. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I watched my brother's face, seeing the exact moment he realized his cover was blown. The worried expression melted away, replaced by something cold and calculating that I'd never seen before. David, he said quietly, You need to give me whatever you found in that safety deposit box. What safety deposit box? I backed toward my car, but Mike moved to block me. Don't make this harder than it has to be. His voice was still gentle, but there was steel underneath now. Sarah was involved in something dangerous, something that could hurt a lot of innocent people. The documents you just picked up, they're classified government materials. Stolen. You're lying. Am I? Did Sarah tell you she was working with foreign agents? Did she mention the money she was being paid to steal corporate secrets and sell them to the highest bidder? The words hit me like physical blows. That's not true. She was exposing corruption. She was a traitor, David. Mike's voice was patient, like he was explaining something simple to a child. And now you're an accessory. But it doesn't have to end badly. Give me the documents, and I can make this go away. You can go back to your quiet life, grieve your wife properly, and pretend none of this ever happened. My phone buzzed urgently. I glanced at the screen. Run. Now. How long? I asked Mike, my voice barely a whisper. How long what? How long have you been working for them? How long have you been spying on your own brother? Mike's shoulders sagged slightly. David, you don't understand how this works. They approached me 6 months ago. Said Sarah was under investigation, that you might be in danger if she decided to involve you. They asked me to keep an eye on things, to protect you. By betraying me? By keeping you alive? The mask was completely off now, his voice sharp with frustration. Do you have any idea what Sarah stole? What kind of people are looking for those documents? They would have killed you both if I hadn't convinced them you knew nothing. And now? Mike reached inside his jacket, and I saw the outline of a gun. Now you know too much. I looked at my brother, the man who'd been my best man at my wedding, who'd promised to take care of me after Sarah died, and realized I'd never really known him at all. Sarah's letter had warned me, sometimes the people who seem to care the most are the ones who will hurt you the worst. I ran. My car screamed through downtown traffic as Mike's voice echoed in my rearview mirror, shouting into his phone. Within minutes, I spotted the first tail, a black SUV that matched my every turn, staying exactly 3 cars behind. Then a second one appeared from a side street, boxing me in from the right. They were coordinating, professional, and closing fast. I took a hard right into the warehouse district, tires squealing against asphalt. The envelopes from the safety deposit box sat heavy in my jacket, feeling like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Whatever Sarah had discovered, whatever evidence she'd compiled, it was worth killing for. My phone buzzed. Parking garage on Industrial Boulevard, level 3, northwest corner. Leave your car, take the stairs. Hurry. The garage was nearly empty at midday. I abandoned my car and grabbed the envelopes, my footsteps echoing off concrete as I climbed the stairwell. Behind me, car doors slammed. They'd found my car already. Level 3 turned into a maze of concrete pillars and shadows. I pressed myself against a support beam, trying to control my breathing. Footsteps approached from multiple directions, at least 4 men, moving with military precision. David Chun! The voice bounced off the walls. We know you're here. Make this easy on yourself. I crept toward the northwest corner, staying low behind parked cars. A figure stepped out from behind a pillar 20 feet away, a maintenance worker in gray coveralls, pushing a janitor's cart. But something about his movements was wrong. Too alert, too purposeful. His hand rested near something under the cart's towel. Another message buzzed. Gray coveralls is one of theirs. Service elevator behind you, press basement level twice, then level 4 once. Emergency exit. I turned to see the service elevator, its doors slightly ajar. But reaching it meant crossing 15 feet of open space. The footsteps were getting closer, and gray coveralls was moving toward my position. No choice. I sprinted. There. Gray coveralls dropped his pretense and pulled a pistol from under the towel. The shot rang out just as I dove into the elevator, shattering the concrete wall where my head had been seconds before. The basement was a maze of storage units and mechanical equipment. I followed Sarah's directions through twisting corridors, the envelopes clutched against my chest like armor. Behind me, the elevator dinged again. They were coming. My phone guided me through 3 more turns before I found the emergency exit, a heavy steel door marked with faded warning signs. It opened onto a construction site, where half-built office buildings reached toward the gray sky like concrete skeletons. Construction trailer, blue door, key under the loose brick to the right. The next message read. The trailer was cramped and dusty, filled with blueprints and hard hats. But in the back corner sat a laptop computer, its screen glowing in the dim light. I plugged in Sarah's SD card and watched as folders full of financial documents filled the screen. But these weren't the same files I'd seen at home. These were deeper, more detailed, with bank routing numbers, names, dates, amounts. Millions of dollars flowing from Syntec Industries to offshore accounts, then redirected to arms dealers, terrorist organizations, and corrupt politicians across 3 continents. Senator Mitchell's name appeared dozens of times, not as a victim, but as a willing participant. The same Senator Mitchell who chaired the Senate Defense Committee, who had access to classified military contracts and weapons specifications. My stomach lurched as I realized the full scope of what Sarah had uncovered. This wasn't just corporate fraud. This was treason on a national scale, with American weapons technology being sold to enemies of the state. One file made my blood run cold. Project Nightfall, Domestic Operations. It detailed plans to eliminate witnesses, starting with Sarah, then moving systematically through anyone who might have seen her evidence. My name was third on the list. Mike's name was there too, but not as a target. As an asset, tasked with monitoring and eventually eliminating his own brother when the time was right. The trailer door exploded inward. 3 men in tactical gear burst through, weapons drawn. "Step away from the computer," the leader ordered, his face hidden behind a black mask. I raised my hands, the evidence envelopes still clutched in my fingers. "You're too late. I've already copied everything." "No, you haven't." The leader's voice was calm, professional. "The computer's not connected to the internet." Nice try, though. He was right. In my panic, I hadn't even thought to look for a connection. The evidence was still trapped on this single laptop, and they were about to destroy it along with me. "However," the leader continued, "you're going to help us with a small problem. See, we need to make sure every copy of this information is destroyed. Every flash drive, every backup, every hidden file your wife might have left behind. I don't know where. You will." The leader nodded to one of his men, who produced a syringe. "We've developed some very effective ways of helping people remember things they think they've forgotten." The needle gleamed in the fluorescent light as they moved closer. But then the trailer's back window exploded in a shower of glass and smoke. "Get down!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos as automatic gunfire erupted from outside. The tactical team spun toward the new threat, and I saw my chance. I grabbed the laptop and dove through the shattered window, landing hard on the construction site dirt. Sarah appeared from behind a concrete mixer, no longer the corporate analyst I'd married but someone else entirely. Military-trained, dangerous, lethal. "This way!" she shouted, laying down covering fire as the men in the trailer regrouped. "The evidence they'll kill for, we're about to give it to the one person they can't touch." We ran through the construction site as bullets sparked off steel beams around us. Sarah moved with practiced efficiency, leading me through a path she'd obviously planned in advance. "Who?" I gasped, clutching the laptop. "Who can't they touch?" Sarah's smile was fierce as we reached a waiting motorcycle. "The one person in Washington who's been hunting them even longer than I have. FBI Director Morrison, James Morrison's older brother. He's been waiting 3 years for evidence like this." As we roared away from the construction site, federal agents swarmed the area from 3 directions. Sarah had orchestrated everything perfectly, the chase, the confrontation, even our escape route. But we weren't free yet. We still had to survive until midnight, until we could deliver the evidence and finally end this nightmare. The hunt was just beginning. Crystal Lake Pier looked exactly as it had 8 years ago, weathered wooden planks stretching into dark water, surrounded by pine trees that whispered secrets in the wind. The same place where Sarah had first told me she loved me, where I'd proposed on a warm summer evening, where we'd come to talk through our biggest decisions. Now it would be where we'd decide what came next. Sarah sat on the end of the pier, her legs dangling in the water, looking almost normal in jeans and a sweater. Almost like the woman I'd married, except for the way she constantly scanned the tree line and the pistol resting beside her on the wooden planks. "You came," she said softly as I approached, not turning around. "Did you think I wouldn't? After everything I put you through? The funeral, the lies, letting you believe I was dead?" She finally looked at me, and I saw tears streaming down her face. "David, I watched you identify that poor woman's body. I watched you break down at my graveside. I did that to you. I sat beside her, close enough to touch but not quite touching. You saved my life. And apparently thousands of others. The federal task force raided Syntec Industries 2 hours ago," Sarah said, wiping her eyes. 17 arrests so far, including Senator Mitchell. The arms deals have been shut down, the terrorist funding cut off. Morrison's brother made sure of that. And Mike?" Sarah's expression hardened. "In custody. Along with Tom Bradley and 6 other Syntec operatives. They'll face charges for conspiracy, treason, and accessory to murder." She paused. "I'm sorry about Mike, David. I know how much he meant to you." I stared out at the dark water, processing the betrayal all over again. "How long have you known?" "About Mike?" 3 months. He approached me first, said he was worried about your safety, wanted to help protect you. I almost believed him. Sarah's voice was bitter. Then I caught him copying files from my laptop while you were at work. That's when I knew they had someone inside our family. So you planned all of this? The fake death, the messages, leading me through the evidence? Every step. I had to make it look real, David. They were watching everyone, you, Mike, our friends, our neighbors. The only way to get the evidence to the FBI was if everyone, including you, believed I was actually dead. The silence stretched between us, filled with the sound of water lapping against the pier and the distant hoot of an owl. So many questions, so much hurt, so much relief all tangled together. Whose body did I identify? I asked finally. A Jane Doe from the county morgue. Car accident victim from 3 weeks earlier, no family, no one to claim her. Sarah's voice broke. She was the same height, same hair color. The injuries from the crash made identification difficult. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And the accident? Staged. Syntec hired professionals to make it look like a drunk driving incident. But I knew they were coming. FBI Director Morrison had been building a case for months, and I was his inside source. When we realized they were going to kill me, we faked my death and let them think they'd won. I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Her skin was warm, real, alive. I grieved for you, Sarah. I mourned you for 3 days. I know. She squeezed my fingers. I wanted to tell you so many times. Every message I sent, I wanted to explain everything. But they would have killed you if they suspected you knew the truth. What happens now? Sarah smiled for the first time since I'd arrived, a real smile, the one I'd fallen in love with years ago. Now we disappear for a while. The Swiss account has enough money to last us years, and the FBI has given us new identities until the trials are over. She gestured toward the parking lot, where I could see a black sedan waiting. Director Morrison is in that car right now, waiting to debrief us and arrange our protection. New identities? New names, new backgrounds, a new life somewhere they'll never find us. She stood and pulled me to my feet. David, what I discovered goes deeper than just Syntec. There are other companies, other conspiracies, other networks of corruption. It's going to take years to unravel all of it. We walked back toward the parking lot hand in hand, past the memorial bench where we'd had our first kiss, past the old oak tree where I'd carved our initials. The life we'd built here was over, but somehow, that felt like a beginning rather than an ending. One more thing, Sarah said as we approached the sedan. When this is all over, When the trials are finished and the conspiracies are exposed, we can come back here. We can rebuild, start over, be David and Sarah Chin again instead of whoever we're about to become. Director Morrison stepped out of the car, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes that looked remarkably like his late brother's. Mrs. Chin, he said formally, then smiled. Or should I say, Agent Sarah Martinez? Agent Martinez. My wife had been an undercover federal agent. There's still so much I don't know about you, I said to Sarah as Director Morrison held the car door open. We have time, she replied, kissing me softly. We have all the time in the world now. As we drove away from Crystal Lake, leaving behind the pier where our love story began, I realized that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about happy endings. They're about choosing each other again and again, even when the world falls apart around you. Even when death do you part turns out to be just another lie worth fighting through together. The road ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and completely unknown. But we would face it together, and that made all the difference.